Hi, this is Marla. Welcome to my first Oh So Inspired collaboration, which is hosted by my friend Call Me Crafty Owl. Each month, we hope to inspire you with the card or project that was inspired by another creator that we found on social media. There are several amazing designers that are participating and sharing their inspired by projects, and you can find them by using the hashtag on the screen or by clicking the link in the description box below. We hope that you are inspired to create something yourself. In the description box, I will also have a hashtag that you can use to tag us so that we can find your projects that were inspired by these videos. Here's a look at this month's inspiration, which came from Ribbon Girls. I will link to the inspired card in my description box so you can find other creations and this card on her Instagram account. Something that I really liked about Ribbon Girls card was the background stamping, and I do this quite frequently, create my own background paper with stamps. For this, I decided to use a stamp set that I had not pulled out of my stash, and that's something that I'm really inspired by with this hop series that Crafty Owl has put together, is the fact that I am going to start using some of the products that I have purchased and have not had an opportunity to use. So in the signed and sealed with a kiss, there are heart stamps, there are wax seal or faux wax seal stamps, and then there are clusters of flowers. I'm going to be using a single flower, and this is a 3-step stamp. Now I know that sometimes multiple stamping, doing layering with stamps can be a little bit challenging for some people. This one is super easy peasy, as you can see. I started with the stem in Juniper Mist, which is going to be the darkest of my blue colors, and then I added the stone blue for the solid portion of the flower, and I'm using my stamping block. It's super easy to align. As you can see, I don't even need my MISTI for this. Once I get this stamped, I am going to come in with my second color combination, and that is going to be Catherine Pooler's Be Mine as my darkest color. You'll notice that the direction of my flowers is changing slightly, but I am keeping the top of the flower where the bloom is in the same direction, going towards the top of my card panel. I'm making sure that I'm stamping off the edges to give it a realistic look of pattern paper. I'm adding my second layer, this time with It's a Girl, and I'm going to fill in that corner in the upper right with another of the blue flowers. I just wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do at this point, because I did know that I was going to be bringing in some other stamps from this stamp set to fill in some of that white space. To finish off the bud of the flower, I did use Be Mine, which was the same color that I used for the stem, and in the case of the blues, I'm using the Juniper Mist, which again was the darkest color that I used for the stem. So this is only 2 colors. I didn't even use 3 different colors for my background. There's an open heart that I would like to use, so once I stamp this last flower, or actually the leaf, I'll bring in this open heart, and I'm going to use the same color combinations to fill in some of those spaces in my background. This heart is a little bit larger. It's open, so you're only going to see the outline of the heart. There's no color, and I filled in where I felt that I needed that larger heart, but there's also a smaller solid heart, and I just kind of felt like it needed a little bit more pop of color. So I'm going to come back in and add a little bit more color to this using the Juniper Mist. and then I'll use It's a Girl, which is the lighter pink. And I think that those added pops of color just kind of draw everything together. The open part left a little bit more white space than was desirable, and this was the perfect size to just fill in between all of the flowers and the open hearts. And I think that it made the background a little bit more cohesive. Again, I am stamping off the sides and the top, making sure that it looks more like pattern paper. The sample card had the sentiment heat embossed on vellum, and I'm going to do the same thing. I think that heat embossing on vellum is so pretty. I do have a larger postage stamp style die set that I cut my vellum from. I treated the vellum very heavily with my anti-static powder because embossing powder will stick to vellum. It has kind of like that staticky element to it, so I used the embossing powder or the embossing tool very heavy-handed, and then I stamped using Versamark ink, added Brutus Monroe's sterling embossing powder, and heated my heat tool up for quite a while before I brought it to the back of my paper to melt that embossing powder. I want to create a frame that's going to really help my sentiment stand out, because I do have the vellum and I have the lighter silver embossing powder. I want to highlight that sentiment, and so I'm going to create a frame. And I used some pierced rectangles that I had in my stash. You saw that I started with the smallest of the rectangles to make sure that it would frame up my sentiment nicely, and then I used a larger pierced rectangle to complete the frame and die cut it using my die cutting machine. I want to add a little bit of foam tape because I like dimension on my cards. You could skip the dimension and certainly glue the frame directly to your vellum, but for me that added dimension just adds a little something more to this very simple card. There is another floral in this stamp set that I'm using. I started with my lightest color, which is It's a Girl, and then there's a second layer that will go over the top. I'll use Be Mine. And then there's a solid flower that's going to go on the left and the right side, and then a detailed piece that will go over the top of that. So I'm using the same pink color combination. Once I finish with this, I will take this over to my brother's Scan and Cut and use my brother's Scan and Cut to cut out this flower. And this is simply going to add a little bit of detail to my card. The sample was pretty simple. I wouldn't say it was necessarily clean and simple, but it was a fairly simple classic design, and I wanted to follow that design with my own twist for this card today. I will have a second card that I was inspired, that I created inspired by this same card. That will post to my channel probably next week. I wanted to just do a second card that had a little bit more to it, so more layers, and I am going to use this same Signed and Sealed with a Kiss stamp set so that it will have a little bit of that similarity. So I'm going to show you two different ways to create a card using the inspiration piece and using the same stamp set. So I hope that you'll come back and take a look. As I mentioned, there is a hashtag in the description box and in the title that you can click on to find all of the designers. There are probably going to be many that you do not currently follow. If you like what you see, we would absolutely love for you to subscribe. Make sure that you leave a comment if there's something that you really appreciated in any of these videos. It always makes our hearts so very happy to be able to interact with you. I added my flower to the left side of my frame, and that will complete my card for today. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to be participating in this Oh So Inspired Hop collaboration. I will see you back in February, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.